Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Taxes. Yeah, not quite the fun subject that we usually deal with on this channel, and yet it's a subject worth covering. If, like me, you have a Google AdSense account, then you may well occasionally put adverts on your videos. There may have even been one on this video. Now, every single time someone clicks on one of these adverts, a little message is sent to Google, and Google totes up the number of clicks that advert has received every month. They will work out how much money that has earned, and they will pay you some of that money. They may pay it by cheque, they may pay it straight to the bank account that you've set up with them. So far so good. It's free money just for putting videos up. Well, that's not the case. Google do not deduct tax before payment. They are not obliged to, they are not your employer. What this means is that for the purposes of tax, income tax, you are self-employed. Now, it doesn't matter if you have a full-time job, a part-time job, or volunteer work outside of YouTube and Google, you are still earning self-employed earnings. Now, in the UK, in the 2012-2013 tax year, the minimum earnings threshold is £8,105, which means if you have a part-time job at the Pizza Hut, your earnings per annum are, let's say, £6,000, then the £70 you've earned in the last tax year from Google AdSense is not going to make a blind bit of difference. You aren't having to owe the HMRC anything. This is very much United Kingdom specific, I will point out. However, if, like most people, you have a basic rate job. So let's say you earn £16,000 per annum gross, and you pay 20% basic rate tax on those earnings. Then the £70 you earned last tax year from Google AdSense are added to that for tax purposes. However, it's up to you to do a self-assessment to work out how much tax you owe. It isn't as simple as just deducting 20% of £70 and sending that money to the tax man, but we'll get to that. Now, why is this important? Well, the HMRC is cracking down on eBay sellers, Amazon Marketplace sellers, and indeed YouTubers who have for quite some time been freeloading. They have been earning this money as self-employed workers, and they have not been declaring it, which means they haven't been paying tax on it. And these days, HMRC is very quick to slap fines on people who aren't paying tax, as are many tax offices all over the world, to the point of jail time for people who are really taking the piss. Indeed, there are some. Just look at Al Capone, although I don't remember his YouTube channel, I'm sure he had one. So, back to self-assessment. What you need to work out first and foremost is, are the earnings you've got through Google AdSense going to tip you from basic rate to higher rate taxpayer? It's unlikely. You're going to have to be in a very narrow threshold there. But look up the brackets. I'm not going to state them here, in fact, because by the time this video goes up, you may well not be checking it until the following tax year, by which point the basic rate threshold and the higher rate threshold may well be different. But look them up. hmrc.gov.uk, when you're in the UK, is your tax office of choice. You need to look that up and see how much you're earning and how much you're earning from Google AdSense and whether you are having to pay a higher rate of tax now. On our more basic example, however, we've got this guy earning £16,000 from his full-time job. He's also earning £70 from Google AdSense. What he needs to do is review how much he earned over the last tax year and register for self-assessment on the hmrc.gov.uk website. He will be sent an activation number, a registration number. It means he will be able to work out for himself how much tax he has to pay. He has to download an employment form, an employed form and a self-employed form. Employed form, you just copy the details from your P60. It's a tax form you will receive at the end of every tax year that confirms how much you earned and how much you paid in tax via your employer. That form is very easy to complete. Then you have the self-employed form. Self-employed form is used for such things as your Google AdSense earnings. These are earnings. Don't kid yourself into thinking they're not. I've been frequenting a couple of forums recently about this, and people seem to be under the misapprehension that just because it's eBay, just because it's Amazon, just because it's Google AdSense, you don't have to pay anything. You do have to pay, because these are earnings. You are self-employed. Money is not free. So, the self-employed form. You have to input on that form how much you earned in the last tax year from, let's say, Google AdSense. And then you have to work out how much of that is taxable. Likely thing is it will be all of it, if you're already earning basic rate tax. Now, the good thing, the silver lining around this cloud of tax, is that you are able to offset tax, offset profits. If you ran your own business, if you do run your own business, you will know that one of the happiest places to be in is to be having as much expenditure as you are profits. The reason for this is because the tax breaks for that are magnificent. As soon as you start actually making a profit, you need to be making one hell of a profit to make the tax payments worth it. However, all self-employed people are able to offset their profits with resources, the things that they have to use in order to get that profit in the first place. In our case, as YouTubers, you may well be looking at the cost of the camera you had to buy in order to start recording. You only get to use that one once. You may be looking at line rental for your internet connection. You may well be looking at bills in other ways. If you do a lot of on-location filming, you may be looking at the cost of transport. If you do videos about expensive cars, who knows? But my point is that you are able to offset an awful lot of your earnings through your expenditure. If you're particularly cheeky, you may try and make it out that your expenditure was more than your profit and try and claim tax back from the HMRC. Unless you're particularly confident and particularly canny when it comes to tax, I wouldn't advise this, because if you try and misappropriate money from the tax man, you end up getting, well... Right. So that is the silver lining around this cloud. And just from that you might think, well, if that's the case, I definitely pay more for my broadband than I do earn from Google AdSense. It doesn't hurt, to be honest. It doesn't hurt to actually send these forms off anyway and let the HMRC know that you've worked it out. Provide proof that you are earning less than you are spending on making these videos happen, and then you won't have the HMRC breathing down your neck as they have been to some people, specifically high-profile YouTubers. You probably won't find it in members of the YouTube RPG Brigade because our hobby is very niche, but if you have a more popular channel, then it is something that you do need to consider. Without a doubt, you do need to consider it, and it is a lot better to pay 20% tax on the earnings from Google AdSense because you're not sure whether you should be, only to have the HMRC refund it because you don't need to be, and you're a moron because you didn't work it out correctly, than it is for the HMRC to say, we've noticed, or we've been informed by Google that they have been paying you £100 a month for your adverts. Where is your self-assessment form? Self-assessment forms have a deadline, if I haven't mentioned it already. 31st of October for paper applications, 31st of January for online applications. What this means is, come, let's say June, you are going to want to look over your previous tax year's earnings, and if you want to get that paper application off to the HMRC to state exactly how much you earned, then do it around June or July. It gives them enough time to come back if they've got any queries. If you're confident enough to do it online, then do it online. It is actually a lot easier to do it that way. Anyway, I hope this has been a helpful video, and I know that it is very much specific to the UK, but tax rules often apply very similarly across the UK, maybe not Cyprus, Europe, yeah, again, maybe not Cyprus, and America, not to mention the rest of the world, which I'm sure has their own funny little tax rules. But typically, if you're self-employed and you are earning money, you may not think you're self-employed, but you are earning money, which means you are subject to tax, which means you should do a self-assessment. It isn't rocket science, it's very, very simple. Better to be honest, pay more than you should and get it back later, than paying less than you should and getting fined for it. Thank you very much for watching.